It's the Fantasy Playoff Push. Here are the players that you need to know to stay in the hunt in your league. And welcome back to the Standard Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Chris. Welcome back to myself to the podcast. I've been on the road for the last couple of weeks. Haven't been able to jump on and film with Jono, but we have been in discussion a lot over the last couple of weeks. It's been an interesting season so far. A lot of major injuries to players, a lot of nagging injuries that kept people out for multiple weeks. Some more injuries this week, but we're right in the playoff push. There's been a lot of weird players that have ended up being top-end guys. A lot of people that we talked about early in the season that might start losing some touches in the next couple of weeks. Chuba Hubbard, one of those guys, and we're going to wait another week because the Panthers are on bye with Jonathan Brooks coming back. But Chuba Hubbard is a guy that all offseason said for the value of where you're going to get him in the 10th, 11th round, he's going to be stellar. And look what he's done so far this season. Earned himself a nice contract. Some injury news from this week. Dak Prescott out for the season. He's going to go and have surgery on his hamstring. So there's that for the Dallas offense. Already an offense that I was staying away from all season, but now, I mean, after looking what they looked like last week, and with Cooper Rush playing quarterback, I don't know how much hope I have for CeeDee Lamb there rest of season. A big sell candidate for me if I can go and get equal value back, or a guy that's more on the uprise. Interesting trade for him is going to getting Pickens owner and maybe a kickback of like a lower end running back. That's an interesting. If I'm CeeDee Lamb owners, that's probably what I'm looking to do. So the other injury news, both tight ends, Sam Laporta and Dalton Kincaid. Sam Laporta has a shoulder sprain. He should be week to week. Let's see what practice looks like for the remainder of this week before make a determination if he's going to play and if you want to pick up anyone there. With Kincaid, it's a knee injury. This is one we're going to definitely monitor, as you'll see kind of coming up on waiver targets for this week for replacements and bye week. Like the quarterbacks and the tight ends, we're just talking about streamers at that point, but the running backs, wide receivers, those are going to be long-term stashes or viable plays for the rest of the season. So a couple teams really quickly on bye for week 11. We have Buccaneers, the Cardinals, the Giants, and Panthers. So a lot of fantasy value there. Connor is going to be missing. You're going to have Bucky Irving, Rashad White, Baker Mayfield. If you were a quarterback team, thankfully, you probably picked them off waivers and have another person to play this week. But, Giants, other than Malik Neighbors and Tyrone Tracy, you're not starting anyone else there. And then the Panthers, there's some interesting pieces on the Panthers going forward. Obviously Jonathan Brooks coming back, he's an interesting piece. Chuba Hubbard there, but Thielen's coming back off IR. Someone maybe if you are in a deeper league, he might be worth a stash there, especially if you're going to get him free off waivers this week. No one's going to buy him, going to pay anything for him. A sneaky thing to do, if you are in need for some depth at wide receiver. Had a little technical difficulty switching images. Put the one up from last week instead of this one. Let's go jump into our waivers for this week. All right, so Russ is again on there. He was on our waivers from last week. He's still low owned. I think he's a viable option. He's unlocked George Pickens in this offense. He's unlocked this offense. And Najee's been great since he's been playing quarterback. And with this defense, the way they play, that they're going to be in games. This is an interdivision game for the top of the division. And both these teams have looked really good, both offensively and defensively. So this should be a really good one. And these Baltimore Steelers games are always tough. Russ is in a great matchup here. Again, with Mike Williams too. The Jets were trying to use him into he's an over the top kind of guy. And Russ, again, this is the same thing we said about George Pickens early in the season, is that Pickens needs a quarterback that can throw like the dime balls, the touch balls that are just going to go up there and get it. And Russ does that, and Russ does that for Mike Williams too. I think Mike Williams, again, we'll get to wide receivers later. And I'll give my thoughts and opinions on it, on who we have there. But yeah, Russ is a great option this week for you to play. He's looked great since he started for the Steelers this year, and has some interesting weapons there. With Austin and now Mike Williams and Pickens, obviously. The second guy is Justin Herbert against Cincinnati. Really good matchup. Again, Herbert's starting to look much better. Early season we saw a lot of running the football down everyone's throat, and they're really starting to open up the pass now. And the last couple of weeks, Herbert's been really good. And there's been a lot of subpar quarterback play, and some injuries to quarterbacks this season that you're going to have to start guys like this. Again, Baker Mayfield being a top-end quarterback this season, who would have thought going into this year that, again, is going to be a repeat of last season, and then Mike Evans and Godwin go down, and he's still able to sustain that. The third guy here is Bo Nix. This one is it's tough for me to eat this. I've never been a big Bo Nix believer, but he's been looking good out there. Early in the season, I really didn't think he was going to be worth anything. Now, you look at the way he's operating that offense, and they get the ball out of his hands so quick. He's athletic enough. He gets some rushing yardage. He's a good matchup against Atlanta in a game that they're going to probably be playing from behind in. But again, it's strong defenses on the side that's going to give him opportunities. The defense on the Broncos side of things keeps him in games, gives him more opportunities to score. And say what you will about the talent on the wide receivers and on the outside, but Cortland Sutton has been phenomenal. Another guy that, again, we said he's going far later in drafts than he deserves to go, and he's paid off this season in terms of where you got him in the value. Moving on to the running backs, we got three guys up there: Gus Edwards, Trey Benson, and Cam Akers. During the injury news, Aaron Jones did get injured too. He came back into the game, but it is something to keep your eye on. Cam Akers did get a lot of work in that game with Aaron Jones going down, and he didn't look half bad doing it. Again, he's a guy that can step in there and take touches away from Aaron Jones, especially if they're trying to nurse his health. This is a team that is gunning for the playoffs. They want to be there, and Aaron Jones is a big factor in that. Gus Edwards, he was getting some more work. J.K. Dobbins, again, still looking good, still the primary guy there. The running back room is really tough scraping this late in the season. Another guy that's on bye this week is Trey Benson, but it's always advisable, if you're looking for some help later in the season, you start noticing a trend of a guy getting more and more touches, and Trey Benson's absolutely been doing that. He's taking more and more touches away from Connor. The game script's been kind of going that way. The last 2 weeks they've been up in games, up big in games, and Connor gets pulled from the game early, or at least he gets the work gets split between DeMarcario and Trey Benson. But Benson's looked good while he's touched the ball out there. They're looking to design and give him opportunities. He's a good stash. I hate it. I'm a Connor owner. I want Connor to get every single touch in the game, especially when he's in smash matchups, when he's crushing the first half and gets very little work in the second half of games. And to the wide receivers, we got a couple guys up here, and then I'll give my honorable mention. Ricky Pearsall, definitely a guy you should go and own. He was one of the tougher drops for me last week. I just had to make room for moving Jonathan Brooks off my IR spot. I made the wrong choice on who I should have dropped, but I dropped Pearsall, looking good. He's going to step into the role Ayuk was playing last year, so the opportunity's there, and obviously with McCaffrey back, this opens up this whole offense, and these guys, Jawan Jennings and Pearsall, are going to have opportunities to have big plays and get involved, because there's so much focus being done on Debo and Kittle and now McCaffrey that these guys go unaccounted for, and they can have massive games because of that. We already saw one early in the season, one from Jawan Jennings. Pearsall could be in line to do that as well. Quentin Johnson, another guy associated with the uptick in Justin Herbert's play, is Quentin Johnson. He's being a lot more viable of a downfield threat. I like Vlad McConkey as the every down kind of guy there, but QJ has been having a lot of big plays down the field, and he's scoring on those plays. So a guy definitely consider picking up and stashing. He could be falling. If you're, I'm in this situation now. I have Mike Evans, who's been hurt. Tank Dell, who's just not been producing. Devontae Adams has just not been producing. A guy like QJ is someone I can put in there right away and give me some fantasy value of the other two guys that I'm just not getting. And even if it's a couple targets a game, they're big, valuable targets on an offense that is more well-balanced, that is moving the ball. Right now, I'm too invested with my own team with the Jets. It's driving me insane. This whole season has been miserable for me because, of course, I get hyped up about all the preseason Jet stuff. The offense looking great. This is the most talented we've ever seen this defense and this offense at the same time. And so I bought in. I bought into it from a fantasy perspective too, with Brees and with Devontae Adams, and it's just not been paying out for me. And I learned my lesson, and my lesson is just in terms of gambling, in terms of betting, I can never bet on my team. They're always going to let me down one way or the other. I'll bet against them, they'll win. I bet for them, they lose in miserable fashion. It always just seems to work out that way. So Jets, I'm done with you. I'm just saying that. I'm done with you from drafting. I'm still going to be a fan because I like suffering. I hate myself, and that's the way it is to be a Jets, Mets, and Islanders fan. Being born in 1987, never seen a championship in my lifetime. Anyway, back to fantasy football here. Mac Hollins, another guy, great usage again with Keon Coleman already being ruled out for next week. This is Mac Hollins, the guy that even early in the season, he caught the first touchdown for the Buffalo Bills of the season this year. He's been involved early on, and I think that Curtis Samuel's kind of just getting phased out of the workload altogether. Khalil Shakir is kind of moving into that role, and Mac Hollins is now going to go on the outside with Amari Cooper coming back healthy. We'll see, how he works into that, but he still was in snaps during that. I think he's taking more of what Keon Coleman was going to take in terms of touches. Mac Hollins is going to keep that. Another guy that I think his usage is really good. He's on a good explosive offense that likes to move the ball down the field. Another guy that looks ugly, but he at this point you might start him over Devontae Adams. You might start him over Tank Dell. There's some good receivers. I mean, CeeDee Lamb has got to be in that conversation for a lot of people right now. If I'm a CeeDee Lamb owner, I'm scared. And I'd be looking to pick up some wide receiver depth. And speaking of depth, how about MVS? I mean, what a veteran return to the spotlight. Huge plays downfield, multiple big touchdowns multiple big plays and touchdowns that he had. The second one was a huge play, but they rolled him down. And then he did score later in the game on a shorter drive, but had a 40-yard touchdown catch, 60-yard play. I mean, he was just lighting up over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, just absolutely crushing it. And this is a situation where they need help. They need help from the receiver standpoint with Olave just being brain dead, and Shaheed out for the season. They've been decimated at the wide receiver position, which is why, from a tight end position, the Taysom Hill has got to be a viable option this week. Again, if Kincaid and Laporta don't go, and Otten and Trey McBride are on bye, Taysom Hill is a guy that he's available. Like he's getting work, whether it's rushing, receiving, throwing. He's getting work there that you don't see from the tight end position, and this team needs playmakers. I mean, the New Orleans Saints just have no one on the outside. Kamara's usage is upticked. Taysom Hill's usage is upticked. I think MVS is going to be a really viable option for the next at least couple weeks while Olave is getting healthy. When Olave comes back, he could have a huge uptick in numbers too, just because there's no one on the second end of that. The other guy is this is mostly determinant on if Kincaid is going to be out this week, and that's Dawson Knox. Every week, it just seems without Dalton Kincaid in there. At least this was the trend last season. Dawson Knox, when Kincaid was hurt, was really he was being really productive from the tight end position. I think that's someone you can definitely plug and play this week again with all the injuries and the bye weeks for some of the more premium tight ends. Most teams not rostering multiple tight ends. Knox is he's going to be available in most of your leagues. He's a great viable option to play this week. Moving on to some defensive streamers. We'll finish it up with that. The Texans versus Dallas at this point in the season. Anyone versus Dallas, go ahead and play. That's going to be the cheat code for the rest of the season. And then the Packers are playing Chicago, and I like that matchup as well. The Packers have a really formidable defense, love turnovers. They get after the ball and create havoc in the backfield as well. So great defensive streaming options between those two, the Texans and Packers. But that's all we got for you today. Nice quick episode. Just wanted to get this out to you guys on the guys that we are targeting, the guys that are available in most of your leagues. If you have any other guys that you're thinking about picking up, drop a comment. Don't forget, like and subscribe. It really helps us out with growing the channel. It's been, again, appreciation for Jono doing a lot of the back end work on this stuff, and then covering for me for the last 2 weeks. Appreciate it, man. Other than that, hope you guys are having a better fantasy season than I am. It's been a rough one, although I still have hope. I still have hope that this is the last 3 weeks going to push into a nice playoff position, possibly even get a bye. Until next time, guys.